Welcome everyone to Wrasslin Raw!
You're listening to Wrasslin Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when the World Wrestling Federation developed a little bit of an attitude. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
Are Wrasslin Raw's Jason Bartlett and Goldust an item? Call 1-900-SHAMELESS to find out.
Joe Gimateo.
You know, guys, when I record, I record from a basement level. Are you guys also at a basement level in your house?
Yes, I am.
You are? Okay.
I'm on the first floor.
Bartlett, you may want to check periodically throughout this recording in case the Undertaker is coming through that floor.
It is a going concern.
Okay.
It's something to be aware of. And I am the one and only Jason Bartlett. We're going to examine WWE history one episode of Raw at a time. But first, it has been a great vacation, and to welcome everybody back, we have a special segment going on here. Joe, why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah, something a little fun and different. We're gonna ask each other a question, and the cool thing about this is I'm gonna go first, and you guys don't know what I'm gonna ask you. Just a random question. We want to get more interaction from our listeners. We've had a couple questions come in over the last few months, and we love it, so we want to get more of that. So these next few weeks, we're just going to have like a question of the week type of segment. Ryan, I think we're running out of jobbers, right?
As of right now, it looks like it. I mean, I know there's a point where we'll get a few more, but we're getting slim pickings on them for sure.
So with those slim pickings, we'll do something a little different here. My question for you guys is, what is your favorite moment from Monday Night Raw of all time, off the top of your head?
Of all time, so not what we've covered so far.
Nope, of all time.
Okay. I mean, I know mine for sure.
You go ahead with yours.
For me, it's easy. It's Mankind winning the belt.
Nice.
To me, you know, I was at that point a giant Mankind fan, and Mick Foley didn't win the WWF belt yet, and when that happened, you know, I was excited for him, and I loved it, so it still sticks out to me today.
Yeah.
You know, I have a really hard time answering this one because, you know, there are the things that immediately come to mind, and then there are the things that I'm sure I would eventually think of if I had more time. Honestly, the first thing that comes to mind whenever you ask me that question are some of the funnier vignettes. Like, I think of Steve Austin and Kurt Angle and some of their interactions. And I think of Mankind visiting Vince McMahon in the hospital where you got, Yerple the Clown. And
the birth of Socko.
The birth of Socko, yeah. And, you know, to a lesser extent, Mae Young giving birth to the Hand.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Memorable for sure.
Some just really weird, funny, entertaining shit happened on Monday Night Raw, and that's just the first place that my mind goes to.
Yeah. Mine immediately, like Ryan, Mankind winning the belt, and not just because of that, but it involved Mankind, The Rock, and Stone Cold Steve Austin. All three of them. And I actually just watched that recently. So it's great that you mentioned it. I just watched it on Peacock like a week ago. And it is just the absolute biggest pop from a crowd that you will ever see in the history of wrestling when Stone Cold's music hits. Like, it's just incredible to watch it. It's hilarious. For my number two, I'd probably go with the hospital scene with Mr. McMahon. For sure.
You know, another great thing about Mankind winning the belt there, that also marks the point where WCW stopped beating WWF, because we've already talked about up to this point where Eric Bischoff would get on television and give the results of the taped Raw.
Right.
And for the most part, that worked out to his favor. But in this instance, so many people wanted to watch him win that they left WCW and they never came back.
Yeah, pretty much.
What was it Shivani had said on the air? None of you really wants to go see Mick Foley win the belt.
It was that'll put butts in the seats.
Yeah, that's right. All right, yeah, awesome. I look forward to getting into more of these as time goes on. I'm already brainstorming questions to throw at you guys, so.
And if the listeners want to reach out, it's wrasslinraw@gmail.com or Instagram. Those are probably the best two ways to reach us.
Excellent. All right, in this episode of Wrasslin Raw, we're going to be talking about the Raw that aired on February 26th, 1996. This Raw was recorded at the Cincinnati Gardens in Cincinnati, Ohio, and features Vince McMahon and Jerry the King Lawler on commentary. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Ready.
All right, then, let's get into it. The mind games between Diesel and The Undertaker have unquestionably been escalating. We then get highlights to kick off Raw of the current situation between Diesel and The Undertaker, with the added information that this week, the Black Glove is in action. Can the cold hand of darkness be far behind? Also tonight, Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart will be face-to-face here in the ring on Monday Night Raw. This is the first time in a while we've got Vince really going balls deep on the delivery of Raw. Going into that classic intro. And we are not fucking around because we're going straight into our first match of the night. Jake the Snake Roberts defeats Isaac Yankum, DDS, by pinfall in 3 minutes and 32 seconds. What happens when he dumps that snake on you? What happens when he comes out? What happens when he pulls that back? That's pretty much how Vince starts this match, yelling in Jerry Lawler's ear about the multiple options of what that snake can do to you. It never ceases to amaze me how rough Jake Roberts is with these snakes. He tosses that bag around as if they aren't reptiles that won't hesitate to take a big bite out of your ass. When the bell rings to get this match going, we get the inevitable line, the DDS versus the DDT, and I groaned a little bit. Apparently, Jake the Snake was on the Action Zone yesterday and had given an interview about his demons and how he's addressing them these days. I don't like where that's going. So far at this point in my notes in the match, there's been nothing of note to come out of the action other than this isn't a good look for poor Isaac Yankum, because Jake isn't looking too good. It does look like Jake is going to throw up once or twice, especially whenever he's sacked in the corner getting pounded on by Isaac Yankum. And we get through the match with still almost nothing of any note until the finish, where Isaac Yankum attempts the DDS. Jake reverses it by holding onto the ropes, and then hits Yankum with a DDT to secure the 3 count and the victory. Jake does not get the snake out of the bag, which I am relieved to see, but does hold his head and amble up the entryway while Yankum still lies in the ring. So guys, I was really curious as to what you were thinking about this. First of all, Isaac Yankum is apparently no longer a monster because he can get beat by a hungover old man. And as far as this match in general, the best word I could come up with was lackluster. Joe, what did you think of our opener here?
Well, before the match, when we opened Raw, they're really building this Diesel versus Undertaker thing. We're going to talk about it later, too, but it's almost like they're building that up more than the main event, like the championship match between Bret and Shawn for some reason. And I'm not... Are you guys... like excited for this match, Diesel versus Undertaker at WrestleMania? Because I'm not.
No.
For the reason that I told you before, that I know from my childhood that this is where I pick up and start watching religiously. So it's exciting for that.
Yeah. But they're really just jamming it down our throats, every week.
Yeah.
But for the match, Isaac Yankum and Jake the Snake, man, I don't want to sound insensitive here, but because I know that Jake Roberts is a guy who has battled addiction. I'm happy to say that 2021, he's doing very well, it seems. And even 96, I know this was during his religious run here where he was clean, but he looks horrible physically. I mean, it's almost like a Yokozuna situation where it's like, oh, I love this guy, but my God, he should not be in the ring. I mean, he looks worse than an aging Waylon Mercy, who we just saw not that long ago. So, man, this was bad. This did no favors for anyone, Jake or Isaac Yankum. And I don't know if that was a real snake in that bag. I was almost thinking maybe that was like a robotic snake, the way that it was moving at the end. But yeah, this was really disappointing.
Yeah, I'm not going to differ too much from you guys. You know, we see Jake the Snake come down to the ring and he gets a hell of a pop. I mean, the crowd was happy to see him, but when this started, just right out of the gate, it looked like hot garbage. Robert's punches to Isaac's midsection were weak, and then he followed it with a extremely weak hip toss, and it never gets better. Isaac takes over, and Jake is too out of shape and sloppy to sell good for him. It was just a very slow and lumbering match. I mean, you guys both already mentioned it, but I'm going to do it again just to really hammer home this point. He looked terrible. He looked absolutely terrible. You know, Joe, you said, thankfully, here in 2020, it seems he's put most of his addiction behind him and he's doing better. And I know they say at this point in 96, he found God and wasn't doing any drugs. But I mean, I don't know what to say. If he wasn't, he should have started doing them again because he just looks bad here. Maybe he'll get better as we see him because we know he's going to stick around for a little bit. But man, it needs to get better from here. I really hope so.
Yeah, agreed on all points. I honestly thought that he was intoxicated in this.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't believe he's clean at this point. He didn't look like it.
Yeah.
I mean, I honestly don't know. I'm not saying one way or the other, but I will say that, Joe, you were spot on with the Yokozuna comparison. You can tell that there used to be something there, but it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
At least not at this point. So yeah, it was kind of disturbing to watch. And I almost think, like you say, you know, this did no favors to anybody. And man, what a mistake to put him in there with Isaac Yankum of all people. Somebody that is a good 6 inches taller, is in fantastic shape, has been billed as a monster. I really, really hate to say this. Believe me, I hate to say this. But it almost seems like he would have been better off in the ring with Marty Jannetty. Somebody that... And, you know, as much as we like to bullshit, let's just to keep it real for a quick second, Marty Jannetty can be a very good wrestler sometimes.
Or just put him up against Ahmed Johnson and just end it. Just put him put him out for a while.
You really want him on those painkillers. Yeah, but you know what I mean? At least Marty could have sold really well for him, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would have been a better pairing, probably. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and, you know, Isaac Yankum is already kind of that slower monster, and then you just put him up against someone who's not a monster, but he's extremely slow just because of age and out of shape. So, yeah, it didn't look good.
And, you know, much like Yoko, maybe he's better off in some sort of a tag team situation or something if you really want to have him there to sell tickets.
Yeah, agreed. But you know what else there is? Take a look at this! And it's an Ultimate Warrior video package with children requesting that Roddy Piper bring back the Warrior. And that is the bulk of the material. This is just video clips of the Ultimate Warrior, and then video clips of children wanting to see him, all set against the audio backdrop of the Warrior's entrance music, ending with Vince saying, "I hope we do see him back." Again, I hope it's not just me, but this continues to be confusing as hell. And I know there isn't a lot to work with in this segment, but just real quick, Joe and then Ryan, what did you think of this week's Ultimate Warrior taint teaser?
Well, the first thing when I saw, this wasn't our first one, so we saw this last week too on Raw, but not enough credit is given to Gorilla Monsoon for getting guys over like the Warrior, because they were playing all of those Gorilla Monsoon audio tapes there, and I loved it. Like, just hearing his commentary was a nice reminder of how good he was. But yeah, I don't get it. Like, why wouldn't you just have the Warrior show up as a surprise? Why are you doing all of this teasing? I guess they really want people to buy WrestleMania.
Yeah, and for me, the thing that really stuck out is, this, I'm not sure exactly the timing on it, but it went on for a little bit, this video for the Ultimate Warrior. Did you notice that there were hardly any wrestling moves shown throughout any of this video? Yeah. It was a lot of screaming, a lot of flexing, and I think we got one shot of him throwing someone out of the ring, but no wrestling moves. So, and I just hope we don't hear about fucking destitutity anytime soon.
Yeah, those are great points. I didn't even, as soon as you said it, I was like, yep, there was not a single wrestling move in that, even though I didn't notice it at the time. And like you said, Joe, I'm kind of excited about it. And that's a very strange feeling because, like, intellectually, I know that he's probably not going to be entertaining in the ring. And, I'm going to have to probably hold him to a higher standard than I would have as a kid. But then again, the three of us are the three people that dressed up like the Ultimate Warrior for the 2001 Invasion pay-per-view.
That is true.
Running around the concourse.
I mean, we're talking about the new generation. We just saw Jake the Snake. We got the Warrior coming back. I guess it just goes to show even more like how great Hogan was at reinventing himself, where some of these other guys from the 80s couldn't really do that.
And let's not forget these two elderly people that are being brought back here when we get to the end of this episode and we get to talk to Fling again, or was that what it was? Fling?
Yeah, Larry Fling.
Yeah, so keep that in mind.
Well, that video package, The Ultimate Warrior, leads us straight into our next match. Diesel defeats Bob Hawley by pinfall in 3 minutes and 16 seconds. We get the news here at the start that Diesel and The Undertaker will be meeting at WrestleMania. And in what is the third fucking time so far tonight, we get another highlight of the entire Diesel versus Undertaker situation. This match then begins, and it starts with Diesel immediately asserting dominance. Bob Hawley is able to reverse, though, and then gets some licks in the corner. And I have to note that while I don't think we've ever had these two in a match together, it seems to me like Bob Hawley is the better worker. We will see if that sticks throughout the rest of this match or not. But this sequence plays out nicely as Diesel has his back to the turnbuckles. Hawley climbs to the second rope to get downward leverage on his punches, but Diesel reverses it by throwing Hawley a good 6 feet across the ring. That looked great. And when Lawler tries to point out how Hawley was tossed like a feather, Vince replies that the casket couldn't fight back because we apparently don't have some decent action right in front of us in the ring to talk about. We have to keep bringing up the Undertaker angle. And of course, Diesel has to keep up with that angle as well in the ring, and so paces around the ring a bit, looking down to make sure the Undertaker isn't about to pop up and grab him, with Vince on commentary saying, Is the Undertaker? Is the Undertaker underneath this ring? Diesel applies a lackadaisical sidewalk slam, and then focuses briefly on the spot where the Undertaker came up again. Bob Hawley is almost a side note in this at this point, as he flops around trying to sell these moves that happened a good few seconds ago, while Diesel tries to sell this angle. When the action gets more deliberate, for example, Diesel laying in elbows and knees in the corner, it looked great. And when Bob Hawley takes control before the commercial break, the action looked great there too. But we cut to commercial and then miss the entire setup for the jackknife powerbomb, coming back to the point where Bob's head is between Diesel's knees. And damn, that jackknife looked rough. Diesel can't even go into the pinfall without slowly looking around for the Undertaker, but he does eventually get there and gets the 3 count. But then, as Diesel is leaving out the entryway, the lights go out and the bell tolls, with the lights coming back up to show the Undertaker in the ring. Diesel turning around and then coming back down the entryway for a fight, but the lights go out again and the Undertaker disappears once they come back up. Diesel's in the ring and the bell tolls and the lights go out again. This time we have the Undertaker coming up on the Proto-Titantron, cutting a promo about playing mind games. And we cut to commercial, so that's where we will end this segment. I'm really conflicted about this. I know that back in the day, this would have had me popping my ass off. I can objectively look at this and say, with this back and forth, the bell tolls with the disappearing and then the promo on the big screen, as a kid, I would have fucking loved that. But rewatching this now, I'm a little annoyed at how much this story just affected the match with Bob Hawley. Bob Hawley could have had a great match here. I don't know. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Ryan, what did you think of this match and then the aftermath?
To me, there was kind of almost three stories here. I thought the action in the ring was pretty solid. I thought Diesel and Bob Hawley didn't work bad together. Started out with Diesel manhandling Bob Hawley, but, finally Hawley was able to muster together some good-looking offense, and Diesel wasn't selling too badly for Hawley at that point either, but him looking at the spot in the ring like he's going to come up from the exact same spot, and just his constant looking around the ring was just dumb. I didn't like that, and agree with you that it kind of just made us ignore Bob Hawley like he was just a prop in this match to get his ass kicked. And that's kind of what happened, especially when we miss a good chunk of it. They just go to break and we come back and it's Hawley getting crushed by a bad jackknife and it's over. So right now we had the point where match wasn't too bad, especially for a Raw. This was a very serviceable match, but a little bit of the storytelling with Undertaker I disliked. But I am going to differ with you on the stuff that happened at the end. I thought were good theatrics. I mean, I could understand where you're coming from, saying as an adult, maybe as a kid, you would have liked it. But I thought, all in all, the ending did a good job of setting up this match that I'm not really that interested for. But this did help a little bit in my interest in this match, only because I thought it was good storytelling, especially from The Undertaker. They kept him this mysterious kind of unnatural character, and I thought that part of it really worked. I just wish that they would have done less of it in the match and just kept it towards the end. But all in all, a solid match.
Did you guys hear, I think it was Vince that said at the beginning of the match, bad shoulder and all, when talking about Diesel?
Yeah.
So Diesel has a bad shoulder now. He's injured. And I'm thinking maybe that's why this turned into a squash, but I don't know. But I did read in the Observer News that he was injured during that cage match with Bret Hart in your house. So I don't know. It must not be that bad that he's not able to have a match, but maybe that's why this turned into a squash. I don't know. But I don't have much to say about the match. It wasn't very long. What'd you say, 3 minutes? Just not much to say there. I mean, I forgot Bob Hawley even existed until this match happened.
Sparky.
Yeah, so I don't mind the squashing of him, I guess, that much. I mean, I don't know who else I would pick for that. I mean, we always go to Marty Jannetty, right? But I agree with Ryan on the theatrics at the end. I do enjoy it, but I didn't like the stuff in the ring that Diesel was doing. But for kind of a different reason, I think that it needs to go one way or the other. Like, either Diesel is scared of The Undertaker or he's not. Because a lot of times Diesel's like, come on, Undertaker, come and get some. But now he's like kind of scared of him. Like, I don't know. It just doesn't make sense for the storytelling aspect of it. So that's kind of why I don't like that. But I did like the stuff with the lights and the video at the end.
It's like his character. Everything's a tweener role.
It's too confusing. Yeah. Pick one or the other.
I could kind of understand what they're trying to do. He's trying to play like, oh, I'm a badass, but then when his back's turned, he'll get spooked type of a thing, But they need to go one way or another with it. I agree.
Yeah, that kind of thing might work for somebody else, but Diesel's just not good at it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yoko did it well.
Oh,
yes, yeah. That's excellent example with the casket match thing.
Yeah, and he went all in on being scared of The Undertaker.
Right.
Which made it great.
Yeah, excellent points across the board here. And the one thing that I will give you, Ryan, you're absolutely right. Even though it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. The way that they are setting up this match, they're giving it more story and more dedication than they did to 90% of what happened in all of 1995. So you're absolutely right. This is more storytelling than we got with most things then. So it's already an improvement, I guess. What's not an improvement in our lives in general is to hear Todd Pettingzoo's voice. We get a voiceover from him here. Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, two legends who have taken different paths to success. Next week, Bret Hart will take on Hunter Hearst Helmsley, while Shawn Michaels takes on the 1-2-3 Kid. Yes, that's right, folks. We've got the Champion and the Clique on that upcoming Monday Night Raw. So just briefly, guys, Ryan first, what do you think about our match card next week? Not just the matchups, but the fact that 3/4 of the marquee participants are Clique members.
Well, I mean, the members being from the Clique, I think, is just a product of the time. Vince was all over the balls of the Clique at this time, and it shows in the match card here. But on the other end of that, most of the people involved in the Clique are damn good wrestlers. So as a fan, it's not a penalty.
Yeah.
So I think we have some good matches to look forward to next week.
Yeah. Vince is juggling the Clique's balls right now. And these are going to be great. And probably no shenanigans. I don't think there's really anything going on that there would be shenanigans. So I'm looking forward to it.
So just so that I can keep it straight in my head, we've got 5 members of the Clique here, right? We've got Shawn Michaels, Diesel, Razor Ramon, the 1-2-3 Kid, and Hunter Hearst Helmsley. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and supposedly, what's his name was kind of a member, Jockface, Aldo Montoya.
Oh, so that puts it up to 6. So, well, Aldo Montoya's balls aren't getting juggled. I was just going to try to make a comment about Vince handling 10 different testicles.
Well, I mean, they couldn't be. They're secured in that jock strap.
Right.
That is true. All right. Well, that Pettingzoo voiceover will take us into our next match. Ahmed Johnson defeats Shinobi by pinfall in 1 minute and 54 seconds. Of course, Shinobi has the same music as Bull Nakano, Aja Kong, and every other Japanese non-superstar we've had on.
The Rockers. Oh, wait, no, not yet.
And then Ahmed Johnson is out, absolutely glistening with oil. And that's where we get the bad news that cameras have followed Diesel to the locker room, just in case something happens. My split-screen senses are tingling. Thankfully, that's not what made the bad news senses tingle. Because while we get no footage of Diesel backstage, we get Goldust on the phone. And for the record, I love Goldust. I haven't been shy about that fact, but this is immediately not good, because Goldust is giving us a quiet, deliberate promo that focuses on what he's saying and the way he's saying it. That's our audio experience, but our visual experience on our screens is the exact opposite scenario. This is Ahmed Johnson quickly, violently, loudly beating the shit out of Shinobi. It was weird how quickly I was unable to focus on one or the other once this began. Ahmed did a kind of a shoulder toss that looked great. It put Shinobi across damn near the entire diagonal length of the ring. What I was able to catch from Goldust sounded both well-delivered and important, which makes me wish I could have heard more of it. I did get an example, a line such as, "Mr. Piper, when does Goldust get to play that bagpipe?" Some nice, weird Goldust shit there. That leads me to believe that Goldust is trying to get some kind of attention from interim president Rowdy Roddy Piper. And I did catch Shinobi botching off the top rope and falling into the ring, allowing Ahmed Johnson to move past that onto the spinebuster, which did look good for once. And then the Pearl River plunge looked just as good, earning the pin and the 3 counts. So, Joe, were you able to get more out of this match or that phone call than I was?
Well, Shinobi is Al Snow, so I was kind of looking forward to it. Like, what the fuck are they doing with this guy? Like, I guess they like Al Snow, but they do, what is it, Avatar? Is that what it was before?
Yeah.
Now it's Shinobi, and then we're gonna see him later with Jannetty. So really disappointing. But in all seriousness, Ahmed Johnson does need to take it easy on the baby oil, because that could have been the reason for that botch. I don't know. I remember the last time he botched was blamed on baby oil. So probably going to get that again. And I think was it Andre the Giant that used to get pissed when people had too much baby oil? Like, he probably would have killed Ahmed Johnson. And the Goldust phone call, holy shit, it just came off as like he's some kind of predator and just creepy. Like, it was just fucking weird. And I hated the call, and it was too much of a distraction from, I guess you can call this a match. It's just another complete beatdown by Ahmed Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, the last time we saw Al Snow as Avatar, it didn't really go all that great. So I was hoping that this time as Shinobi, maybe it would be a little bit different. But it really wasn't. Al Snow, I know I enjoy him later in life, but I don't know what it is here, but he just can't seem to really get a good match together. And some of it could be on Johnson and his baby oil for sure, but that slip on the top rope, there's just no way to make that look graceful. And it looked terrible. Like, I just cringed when I saw that fall, because, I'm thinking back to the last match and the fact that one didn't end well. So I'm really feeling bad for Al Snow watching this, but I will give Ahmed Johnson a tad bit of credit here. That shoulder toss, it almost looked like he shot-putted Shinobi across the ring. That looked amazing. I don't know what the hell it was, but it looked unbelievably strong. That was very impressive. But the Goldust call, once it started, I'm in your camp, Bartlett. I love Goldust, but like always, you don't know what to pay attention to. You're trying to pay attention to the match and what's going on there, and every once in a while, you might catch a word of what Goldust is saying about what he wants to do to Piper here. But all in all, I miss a lot of it, including the match. I mean, there wasn't much to miss here in this match, but I wanted to actually watch it. It was nice to see he cleaned up the spine buster a little bit. Double J, I'm sure, was happy to hear that. And then he gets the Pearl River plunge and it's over. So kind of sad for Al Snow, I guess, is what I came from the most of this.
It's funny. You've got not a good look on Al with Avatar, not a good look on Al with Shinobi. Later on, we'll see just a graphic of him, and it's still not a good look. And no wonder he did the Job Squad so well. He must have had plenty of just psychic and in-ring experience jobbing out in the worst possible ways. What a way to take something and turn it up to 11. Speaking of, we've got a little bit of a long section here. We'll get through it, though, and get some discussion going. It's going to start with a Mankind vignette. Mankind is there with George the Rat again, talking about beautiful mommy. Mankind is in pain. Mankind is suffering. Mankind is in agony. Mommy, leave the light on. I'm coming home. Once again, incredible stuff. This vignette this week, this isn't so much cerebral as it is just tortured. And I really love how he's kind of moving back and forth between these different themes in his vignettes. He's just continually giving us new ways to continue looking at Mankind. I absolutely loved it. And then because they love throwing a bucket of cold water onto us, next up is another Todd Pettingzoo voiceover for the WWF store. I did like that WrestleMania shirt, which boasts, and I quote, a listing of the cities that have been fortunate enough to host WrestleMania. And then it's over to Doc Hendricks giving us a voiceover update on the tag team tournament that had a match this past weekend on Superstars. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the only reason we know that's happening is because Joe reported it in his news report. We haven't been informed of this tournament up to this point on Raw at all. Am I correct with that?
Yeah.
Far as I know.
Well, in the tournament, Owen Hart and the British Bulldog defeated Barry Horowitz and Hakushi to move on to the next round. And coming up this weekend will be the New Rockers. versus the Godwins. And this picture of the New Rockers looks terrible. For the record, the New Rockers are Marty Jannetty, and this is what we were talking about earlier with Al Snow. His gimmick name is Leif Erikson? Leif Cassidy.
Cassidy, yeah.
Leif Cassidy. It's just, it looked terrible. It looked
Not
terrible.
enough tassels for you?
Well, 0 tassels and the biggest, fakest, cheesiest smiles on both Al and Jannetty's faces. They looked tortured. But then it's time for the most charismatic, the most resilient challenger on the road to WrestleMania to come to the ring for this advertised interview. And this time it's going to be Jerry Lawler fluffing Shawn Michaels during Michaels' excessively long and flamboyant entrance. Vince introduces Bret Hart next, and Bret Hart's entrance is not a crazy production. This is Bret Hart confidently and assertively walking straight to the ring, getting straight in the ring, and getting this started. Just what a contrast in styles and individuals. Vince asks Shawn about the claim of Bret being the best there is, was, and ever will be. Shawn answers very well to this, giving Bret the was and potentially the ever will be, but claiming the is for himself. Bret's turn on the mic is slightly more arrogant than Shawn's was, which is surprising, but Bret gives us a great line, which I will paraphrase with, "As champion, it's not my job to beat you. As challenger, it's your job to beat me." I'm not going to cover this line for line, but I will note that Shawn does pull his pants down to show everyone the happy trail to the pumpkin patch.
Oh my.
Vince did like it. He did give a sidelong glance.
He got excited when he got that hug and kiss, but you know he lost it when this happened.
I'm thinking of the meme of Vince falling back in his chair.
Yeah.
And surprise, surprise, Rowdy Roddy Piper comes to the ring unannounced. And I loved how Roddy took the mic and dismissed Vince, telling him to go have a seat. Roddy picked this whole thing up for me. That's not to say that it was bad before, but Roddy took it to another level, especially when he declares the stipulation that championship match coming up will be an hour long. The man with the most pinfalls wins the match. It's going to be an Iron Man match. Guys, I'm going to call it there because there is a ton to unpack here, and there's still more Raw to talk about. Joe, what did you think about this week's Mankind vignette, the tag team tournament update, the interview between Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Rowdy Roddy Piper, and the news that this is going to be an Iron Man match?
Yeah, we start with the Mankind vignette, which again was great, just like last week. Another one with George the Rat, those are always the really good ones. You know what I really like about this, too, is after they come back to the show, Jerry Lawler continues to sell Mankind, which I think is a work of a true professional, because rather than just moving on with the show, Jerry Lawler makes a couple comments about how crazy Mankind is, and I like that. For this tag team tournament, you're right. Like, we don't know anything about this. This is something that's been jobbed out to superstars, I guess. And it's possibly going to be jobbed out to the pre-show for WrestleMania. So I guess we really shouldn't give a shit about this, is how I see it. And for the Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart interview, I am coming day and night over this, because this is where the greatest real life hatred feud is beginning. We're really far from like the true hatred that these guys have for each other, but this is where the seeds are planted, and I am really excited to see the build up for this. This is kind of the start of it, and Bret got a little bit of a bigger pop, I guess, than Shawn Michaels. And like you mentioned, Jason, I liked that Bret Hart kind of came out with that a little bit of arrogance, but he wasn't being a heel. He was just being very confident. And Shawn Michaels just came off as a little too goofy for me. You know, he's pulling down his pants. He's talking about the 9 thugs that beat him up, and just kind of being respectful and I think he did okay as coming off as the underdog a little bit, but he was just being a little too goofy. And I'm kind of glad that Roddy Piper came out because I didn't think this segment was really that great. So I think Roddy Piper sort of saved that. And to tell us that it's going to be a 60-minute Iron Man match is pretty exciting because that's not something that we've seen before.
Starting with the Mankind vignette, complete agreement with you two here. Just another home run for Mick Foley here. We've gone on and on at this point about his promos and vignettes, and this is no different. It's another classic from him. And like you mentioned, Bartlett, really great to see him bounce between, I think you said tortured, which is a perfect word for this one, opposed to the cerebral one from last week. So another great job from him. Petting Zoo, I'm going to skip right over him. Learning about from the Cocaine Jan, finding out that we're going to have this tag team tournament. Yeah, shocker. And I'm glad they showed us a little bit of footage from Superstars, so we at least have an idea what's going on. I did laugh the moment I seen Al Snow. This is mere minutes after he just wrestled, but is a completely different gimmick. Thankfully, he didn't take the mask off this time like he did Avatar. Maybe some people would have noticed. Sadly, for him, he's going to get teamed up with Marty Jannetty here, so that's a shame for Al Snow. So I'm still feeling bad for him as this day goes on. Then we get to this Vince McMahon when Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart interview or discussion in the ring. Lawler, it got a little bit long-winded because Shawn Michaels was taking so long. So Lawler just kept up with these, trying to give him backhanded comments and then say, why do they like him so much? He's not that good looking, that type of shit. And it just took so long that it seemed like that's all he was doing for 5 minutes. Once they both got down there, though, I thought, especially the initial exchange between the two, Michael saying, you're not the best there is, and then Hart coming back with saying he was and that he's the champ and all that. I thought that was good stuff coming out of both of them. And then Michaels jumps into the 9 Thugs, and Bret Hart then after that brings up something about being the Energizer Bunny, which ended up being the perfect point for Rowdy to interrupt because this was it was starting to go off the rails a little bit, this, until Rowdy came in and wrangled this interview back together with saying, you know what? Yeah, you might be the champ and you say he has to beat you. You might just, if a count out, the belt doesn't change. Well, no, that's not going to be the case. We get a 60-minute Iron Man match, and I don't know of anyone that has a pulse that couldn't be excited to see Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels for an hour. I don't remember this match all that well, but it can't be bad.
Yeah, I'm right up there with you on that one. I don't remember it, but I'm excited just for the sheer skill. It can't be bad. The sheer skill in it. And I know there's probably going to be slow spots in it because it's going to go on for an hour, but man, I'm more excited about this one match than anything else we've talked about going into any of the upcoming stories or pay-per-views. This is something that I really, really look forward to watching. All right, moving it along, there's a brief, so brief backstage glance at Owen Hart and the British Bulldog prepping for their match. They chase the cameras out of the dressing room. By the way, guys, anybody that wants to know, call into the Superstar line. That's $1.49 per minute at 1-900 Shameless to find out if Roddy Piper and Goldust are an item. What the fuck?
I have a comment on this real quick on the Superstar line thing. So the music they were playing was, and I wonder if this was an editing thing, it was Lex Luger's WCW music that was playing. So I wonder if that was done in editing later with Peacock or whatever, but that was fucking weird. It was definitely Luger's WCW music.
That is odd.
Yeah.
I wonder if maybe they were playing some music they don't have rights to now and they decided to just plug that in.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, we come back from that to go into our final match of the night. Yokozuna defeats Owen Hart and the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith, with Jim Cornette via disqualification in 4 minutes and 7 seconds in a handicap match. Vince reminds us that in size, Yokozuna is bigger than his two competitors combined, which, considering the muscle density of the British Bulldog and the gorilla limbs of Owen Hart, that's a fucking wild statement to make, and I don't doubt it one bit. Once the bell rings, Vince comments that Yoko is pacing himself like he always does. And while I understand why he would say that in reference to, in-ring strategy, I can't help but hear it as a reference to stamina, or the lack thereof. Owen's time in the ring at the start looks good, ending with a great clothesline reversal from Yoko. Likewise with the Bulldog, once he's tagged in, the work is brief, but it looks good. I was surprised to see Yoko running at the Bulldog in the corner to attempt a splash, and then equally surprised at Yoko stumbling back across the ring to sell Davey Boy's reversal, putting himself being Yoko, into position to receive a great missile dropkick from Owen off the top turnbuckle. This was some of the fastest I've seen Yoko move in a very long time on his feet. Yoko's always quick about getting up from the ground, but this was Yoko up on his feet, moving quickly across the ring. Very surprising. The referee distractions were ridiculous in this. And as I've stated many times before, how can you not notice all of this activity literally 4 feet behind you? It really, really challenges my suspension of disbelief.
Well, in this case, though, with Yoko in the ring, how do you tell the difference when there's a 600-pound man falling and 2 other men? It could feel the same.
I agree with that, and I acknowledge the point you're making, but in this particular case, Earl Hebner was facing the corner where one of the tag team should have been standing. He could, even though he's not looking at the center of the ring, he could clearly see that there was nobody standing in the corner.
I'll give you that.
Even with the distractions from Cornette, but still. And it's always Earl Hebner. What the fuck? But then here comes Vader. Cornette gets in there to try to hold Vader back while Yoko's double-teamed in the ring. And for the record, this is the 6th or 7th time that Yokozuna has been getting double-teamed, and the referee caught them. So not just getting double-teamed, but double-teamed and the referee catches it, eventually. But once Vader enters the ring and clotheslines Yoko, that's the line that shouldn't have been crossed, and the referee calls for the bell to end the match. And then the triple team commences, and Yokozuna gets punked out once again. But then comes Ahmed Johnson? And then Jake the Snake with the snake bag? This made no sense at all to me, and I was physically wincing as Jake pulled the snake out and was flipping it and flinging it around. Apparently, according to Vince, the guy who was once a monster heel that couldn't speak English now has a lot of friends that have his back. And that's where I'll end this. The episode isn't over yet, but I need to ask, Ryan, what did you think of our last match of the night?
When it first started, it was very slow-paced, of course, to give Yoko enough air to get in this 5-minute match. But I will say, both the exchange with Owen and the Bulldog looked very solid. Yoko was doing his work here. He had to get his breathers in, no doubt. But I thought that the work between Owen, Bulldog, and Yoko for a handicap match was going pretty well. And then the stuff with the ref being interrupted many times, it starts to wear on you a little bit. But then Vader comes down and, to me, just ruined this. I've been liking Vader and them trying to make him this rogue monster, but how many times is he going to interrupt a Yoko match? How many times is him and 3 other people going to beat the shit out of Yoko? It was like they showed us the video at the beginning of that happening, and then it was just a carbon copy of it happening at the end of this match. The only thing different is that completely out of nowhere, Jake the Snake and Ahmed Johnson want to help Yokozuna. I thought The match itself was at least serviceable. It got its job done, but I thought that Vader's coming in, interrupting, and ultimate disqualification of this match ruined it this time. It needs to stop, or he needs to do it with other people. I understand that this is leading up to a match with Yoko, but at least do something different than just come in at the end of his match and cause a disqualification. So that's pissing me off.
Yeah, I hated all of this. I hated the match. I thought it was boring. I thought that, again, Vader coming down, Ryan, just like you said, it's like they're ruining a good thing. Mm-hmm. Basically, they have this monster that is a great, believable monster, but they just have him. I'm sick of having him come down in his fucking leather jacket and beating on someone. And then, like you guys said, Ahmed Johnson and Jake Roberts, like, what is the alliance there with Yokozuna? Like, they're just, it's totally random, just thrown together for no reason, makes no sense. And Jake Roberts can barely get in the fucking ring when he comes out. Like, he's doing a run in, but he can't even get in the ring. But when he's like crawling into the ring, he's like physically unable to do it at this point.
Maybe we should add some farting effects to him getting in the ring.
Oh, God.
And by the way, I'll end here that I am not buying that Vader is scared of snakes either. I mean, Vader is a monster, and this man had his eye pop out of his head at one point in a match and popped it back in. Like, this guy's not afraid of snakes. Okay. So all of it is just stupid.
Yeah, 100% agreed on all of this. The only things that I would add are, first off, in reference to Vader, and I hate to say this, I'm no longer excited about Vader. Like you guys have said, it's just kind of beating it to death. It's starting to miss the mark. Whatever kind of, phrase you want to apply to it.
Going to the well too many times. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Or what would have been a good opportunity? Maybe when Vader does one of his stupid run-ins. Maybe that's when you have Ultimate Warrior come out, Yeah. I mean, if you want to have some sort of like surprise.
You got to change something up about it.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's bad.
Just to throw it out there, I'm not saying that this will happen, but just imagine, if you will, a 3-man tag with one team being Camp Cornette, Vader, Owen, and the Bulldog, and the other team being Jake the Snake Roberts, Yokozuna, and Ahmed Johnson. How much of a fucking train wreck would that team
be?
I
have to assume that is what's going to happen.
You don't have to imagine, yeah. It's your dream will become a reality here, sir, very soon.
Well,
yeah, that's what I was afraid of.
I mean, I'm making the assumption, but I don't want to claim it as fact because I have not looked ahead. I don't want to, get all of our listeners all worked up and starting, to tie nooses or anything like that. Something that does make me want to just fucking hang myself, though, is Larry Fling Live. This is how we're going to get to the end of our episode here on Larry Fling, the Huckster and the Nacho Man, both past their prime, both suffering from male pattern baldness, both sold out to billionaire Ted. And then in the chyron there on the screen, under the words Huckster and Nacho Man, it says recently injured by a lady's shoe, which I have to admit I do find funny. And that's the only thing. That's the only thing. They introduced the Huckster and the Nacho Man with the sound of a toilet flushing. And then Larry asks about Liz, meaning Miss Elizabeth, which is answered with a fart sound. This was fucking disgusting. And I don't mean the toilet humor. That was just pathetic on a base level. But the cheap shots being taken here were excessively cheap, bringing the wives into things. And say whatever you will about other things that have happened in the wrestling world involving these people. I was honestly kind of angry when they brought up Liz. Maybe that's just the sentimental person that I am. Maybe that's my strong childhood memories of Miss Elizabeth and the Macho Man. I don't know. But dragging Liz into it really, really pissed me the fuck off. The shit talking in this segment was relentless, and I know I keep saying this, but this is just yet another step down I can't believe it keeps getting worse and worse and worse. They do make mention, though, of a match at WrestleMania yet again between the Huckster and the Nacho Man. God, I hope that doesn't happen, but like we were just talking about, it kind of is being signaled that it is going to happen. But during the onset quote-unquote brawl that breaks out between the Huckster and the Nacho Man, Larry Fling does defend himself with a bright red ladies' high heel shoe, which, again, moderately entertaining. And that's where we fade to black and end our episode. Ryan, please, what did you think about the way that Raw ended this week?
Well, no surprise I hated it. This just goes along with what we've been seeing, what is it, almost 2 months now, of us ending Raw with terrible garbage. This is, the farting noises, like they literally resorted to middle school fart noises now. I mean, and then after that, we bring up wives. We bring up Jane again with Ted, and then, of course, with Elizabeth, and just tasteless bullshit. I really don't want to waste that much time with it because I don't know how many more ways I could say how pathetic and dumb this is, and it needs to stop because I lose respect for Vince more and more every week these air.
Bartlett, I enjoyed your recap of this, and I hate to say this, guys, but I shut it off. I did not watch it.
I was
couldn't
wondering
do
how
it.
long it was going to take for it to get there. Yeah,
I couldn't do it. I did fast forward though, so I could see the screen to make sure that this was the end and I wasn't missing anything else. But Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart interview probably should have ended the show. That and Roddy Piper announcing the Iron Man match, that should have ended Raw, but it didn't. We got that terrible handicap match and then this horrible Larry Fling shit that I couldn't watch it. After being just tortured over the last few weeks with this shit, I couldn't take it anymore.
And let's remember this episode where they are making fun of the Huckster and Nacho Man's male pattern baldness. They introduce Jake the Snake.
Right.
Yeah.
Just let that sit in.
Yeah.
Yep. And what's kind of fucked up about it is that in just a purely physical sense, Jake looks about halfway between the Nacho Man and the Huckster.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, as I said, that is where our episode ends, so we're going to take it now to highlights and lowlights. Joe, why don't you go first?
For a highlight, I didn't really love anything on this show. If I have to pick, I'm going to go with the Mankind vignette because, again, it's too easy. It's anything Mankind does is going to be great. And for a low light, I didn't even watch Larry Fling, and I'm never going to ever again. But I'm going to go with the fact that I just said it. I think that they should have ended this show with the Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart interview. So that's my low light, that they did not end the show with that.
My highlight and low light will be kind of not parallel with yours, but they are connected in the fact that I didn't pick the Mankind vignette solely because I've already went with it twice. And as much as I love this, I felt like I needed to pick something else. So I ended up going with, I guess, the way that they are setting up WrestleMania for me in general. I thought the theatrics with The Undertaker and Diesel actually gave me a shred of interest in that match. And then the interview with Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart, finding out that is a Iron Man match, that made me excited for WrestleMania as well. So I thought they did a fairly good job of pushing WrestleMania this match. And my low light, I really wanted to go with Ted here, Billionaire Ted. But again, I've used that a few times, so I decided I had to go with something else. And the next thing on the list was the Yokozuna British Bulldog Owen Hart match, especially the way it ended with this repeat of Vader doing the exact same thing he's done every week now. So those were my highlight and lowlights.
Yeah, I'm going to parallel your motivations in this. Mankind and Billionaire Ted were a little too easy for me, and I think I've gone to them enough so far, at least give them a little bit of a break this week. That being said, this episode was just a tad bit lackluster. Not a whole lot jumping out, but there were clear alternatives for me. For my highlight, I'm going with specifically the part of the interview once Roddy walked in. It was good up until then, but Rowdy Roddy Piper getting between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels and conducting this interview and giving us the Iron Man match stipulation, that took it to the next level for me, so that was my highlight. My low light was the Ahmed Johnson Shinobi match, more specifically the fact that we did a phone call over it and just lost anything, or at least I personally lost anything that I could have gotten out of either the phone call or the match by trying to blend them together. Even thinking back on it now, I think of Goldust whispering into the phone while Ahmed Johnson is standing in the ring screaming. And it's like a dissonant sound. It drowns each other out, and I just lost all of it there. So
dripping baby oil.
Yes, splattering it on the camera lens. All right. Joseph, do you have any contemporary wrestling news from on and around February 26, 1996 for us?
Yes, I do. Direct from the Wrestling Observer. The rumors of some of the Click members going to WCW is getting hot and heavy these days. The babyface side of WrestleMania 12 is in something of disarray with the expected leaving of Razor Ramon, an injury to Diesel, the arrival of the Ultimate Warrior, and the emergency replacement work of Roddy Piper. While nothing is official yet, Scott Hall is expected to join WCW after his contract ends in late May. Scott Hall sent Vince McMahon a telegram. What the fuck?
Telegram.
On February 21st, officially giving his 90-day notice that he was leaving the company. On the same day, Hall was suspended by the WWF for 6 weeks. For reasons theoretically having nothing to do with him giving his notice, but causing him to miss his scheduled appearances and would take him past WrestleMania, which would have been his last big payday before leaving. That is a part of this story that I was unaware of. I did not know that Vince suspended Scott Hall. With him gone, WWF is set to schedule a gimmick match between Goldust and Roddy Piper for that vacant slot. Hall is eligible to return on April 3rd, but his general belief of that is that he'll be sitting out from now until he joins WCW. So Scott Hall has officially given his notice. Diesel is also wildly rumored to be headed to WCW, but the news with him is that he suffered a combination separated and fractured shoulder, apparently early in the In Your House cage match against Bret Hart. So we'll see what happens with that. The Ultimate Warrior has agreed to a contract to return as a regular and will have a match against Hunter Hearst Helmsley at WrestleMania.
Oh, God. I know the match.
Yes. As of now, it looks like Jeff Jarrett will miss WrestleMania due to his back injury suffered against Ahmed Johnson. That is a shame.
A true spine buster.
Yes. It also appears as though the Yokozuna versus Vader match will turn into a 6-man tag match. There you go, Bartlett. A gay rights group got a major story in the Stamford Advocate, critical of the Goldust character. They were upset with the message of portraying gay people as predatory homosexuals, as Goldust is portrayed, who are after and threatening straight men and glorifying the straight men beating them up. The WWF said they've received a lot of response to the Goldust character and have no plans of changing the portrayal of the character. Several wrestlers who were not being booked are rumored to have been let go. Guys, I know that this is going to ruin your night, but among them are Mabel and Mo.
Oh,
no. Say it ain't so.
So sad. Well, they've finally been buried to hell.
They are buried to hell. But even though they're burning in hell, they were given conditional releases, which basically means they can work anywhere but WCW. last piece of news here is that Dave Meltzer thinks that the Billionaire Ted skits are hilarious.
Wow.
Jesus.
He loves them.
I didn't think that my, respect for him could be any lower.
It's tough, He does do a good job of finding out all this information, but my God.
Oh, yeah. His info is nice, but he is very hateable, and him saying that it just puts the cherry on top.
Yeah, pretty rough. But that is it for this week.
All right. Thank you, Joseph. Illuminating as always. And that's it, folks. We are done with this one. I want to thank you again for joining us. If you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can email us at WRASSLINRAW. Just add @gmail.com to the end of that to submit questions or comments. Check us out on social media and on every podcast subscription platform. While you're there, don't forget to follow and subscribe to get every episode of Wrasslin Raw coming to you every week. Give us a 5-star review, and let your friends know how much cooler they would be if they became Rawheads like you and me. Next week on Wrasslin Raw, we're going to take a look at the Raw that aired on March 4th, 1996, with matches featuring Hakushi, Justin Bradshaw, and many more. So, for Joe and Ryan, I'm Jason, and this has been Wrasslin Raw.